live and local talk. From the mind behind the Overton Report, it's time for Palmetto Talk Live with your host, Corey Allen. Now, your host, Corey Allen.
That's me. I think that's me. I'm Corey Allen, and this is Palmetto Talk Live. And today is actually, we've got a really cool show today. We have a very awesome show for you today. Jordan Pace, he's gonna be on, and also later in the show we're gonna have Gil Gatch, and we're all gonna have a discussion because yesterday I had Joe White on, and we were talking about the VCSummer's nuclear deal and the ups and downs of that, and I just, like I said yesterday, I want to make sure that both sides of this issue are going to be spoken about. But I've got Jordan Pace. He's on the way in studio right now, but since our DOT does such an amazing job, he's stuck in traffic. So we're gonna talk to you. You're there, right? Right, Jordan?
Hey, Corey. Yeah, I'm here.
Hey,
Well,
man. It's good to
I'm on the
talk to
phone.
you.
I'll be there in a few minutes.
Yeah, he'll be here in a few minutes. But until then, I wanted to go ahead and start the show and talk to you a little bit about some of the things that we're going to talk about before we get into the discussion about the nuclear facility and that whole situation. Which again, later on we'll have Gil Gatch, your colleague. He'll be joining us for that conversation, and it is I think it'll be a very interesting conversation. But before we get into that, and while you're on your way in, I want to talk to you a little bit about, let's do food stamps.
Okay.
Talk to me about this shutdown. I know this is more of a federal issue, but it does affect, it affects a lot of South Carolinians. When are these people who are dependent upon SNAP benefits in South Carolina, when are they meant to start getting their next month's dole out?
Mhm.
And I know that Governor McMaster has tried to open up some funding or some he's done something, and I'm not really clear on what it is. Maybe you can help me clear that up.
Well, I don't think many of us are real clear on what exactly that 1SC is supposed to be doing, but
It's
so
one SC is the group that he's opening funding up for, or
my understanding, and I might be totally wrong on this because it is fairly obscure, is that 1SC is a nonprofit that is administered, I think, by the state or set up by the state. I'm not sure who administers it, if it's not the state itself or the governor's office.
Okay.
And I think the purpose of it, of what he's trying to do, is fund some of these food banks via donations through 1SC.
I see.
I can appreciate the sentiment. The reality is you're going to be a lot better off as an individual or as a church to donate directly to these food banks or to these community nonprofit or these community food pantries or things like that.
Or hold your own.
Yeah. Rather than give money to the government to do it for you. I mean, it's kind of the inverse of what conservatives believe. We should not give it to the government to do things for us regarding charity and things like that. Look, what we discovered, I think, as a society in the last couple of weeks, is that 40 million people receive SNAP benefits. That is
44.
Huge. I mean, that is 44. It's more than 10% of the population of the country.
Also, before we move on from that, I want people to understand that when we say that 44 million people receive or benefit from SNAP benefits, like, it's very difficult to really claim that number. There is a 100% chance that it's actually more people than that benefit, because if you have let's say you have a woman with 2 kids who gets SNAP benefits, that's one person getting SNAP benefits, but it's her and her 2 kids who are benefiting from it, right? So it's definitely more than that. an
Yeah.
exorbitant amount of people. I think we're up to about 11 to 14 or 15% of people.
Mm-hmm.
That's huge in a
It is
population.
huge, and SNAP is separate from EBT, and I think there's some confusion there too. Like there's EBT, or what we call food stamps locally, and then there's SNAP, which is on top of the food stamps. And in South Carolina, at least, in order to receive SNAP benefits, you do have to be working. Every state's a little bit different how they administer it. In South Carolina, you do have to have a job
Or be seeking one, right? No.
or be yeah. It's a little fuzzy on the seeking part.
Yeah.
The goal is to be employed, right? So this isn't just a straight up handout. It's supposed to be a help hand, what we call hand up. But functionally, what it's become, both EBT and SNAP together have started, I think, with good intentions, as a lot of leftist stuff does.
Well, and all of that
But
also all of that is completely separate from things like WIC, which
correct.
yes, which is a completely different thing that helps new mothers with their children with diapers,
Yeah.
formula, things like that. So that's
Correct.
a totally separate thing too. This is just junk food, or well, I mean,
That's not. It's
not
food.
supposed to be.
Yeah,
It's
not
whatever
supposed to be
food you
junk
want.
And my desk mate in Columbia, Stephen Frank, from Taylor's, Greenville County, he introduced a resolution that Governor McMaster actually did. He could do on his own, which I'm glad he did, which is remove a lot of those sugary candies and drinks and sodas and Red Bulls and stuff.
Yeah, did that end up working out?
He put the application in for the exception. Governor McMaster did with feds, and as far as I know, that's in process.
Okay,
So
that's in process.
we are at least taking that junk food ostensibly out of the SNAP. But the bigger issue is when you have that level of subsidy, it has an effect on the market. So the prices that you and I pay, those of us who aren't receiving these benefits, not only are we paying the price in taxes, we're also paying the price at the grocery store. Because when you have 14% of the population spending subsidized money on something everybody buys, it inflates the market.
And it's guaranteed money. It's guaranteed money.
Right. It's guaranteed money.
And they know. These corporations, they know exactly how many, and I went on a whole half-hour rant about this yesterday. I don't know if you heard any of it, but yeah, it's exactly that. The government controlling the food and controlling people using food. But beyond that, what happens in this situation is the government is like you said, subsidizing. It's not only subsidizing. Let's use Walmart Supercenters as an example, because they have grocery stores, and that's where SNAP benefits are used the most out of any other business in the country. So not only do you have SNAP benefits being used at Walmart, and they know that that's guaranteed money every single month. They know that it's guaranteed because it's coming from the government. It's never going to go up or down, as opposed to people who don't get those benefits where they change their food budget month to month. Beyond that, so many of their workers, their part-time workers especially, they meet the requirements to receive SNAP. So beyond that, it's subsidizing the payments that they give to their employees, and then and on top of that, it's so crazy. It's not even a double dip; it's like a quadruple dip in my mind.
Yeah,
they're paying the people less than they should be paid, allowing those people to benefit from SNAP, get SNAP benefits. Then those SNAP benefits are used in that store because the people who are working at Walmart Supercenters are going to do their grocery shopping there. It's easier and takes them less gas. So they're using the SNAP benefits there. And it's a very weird thing to me that this has been allowed to grow to this point. And I think that lobbying at the federal level especially, but even at the state level, because states, correct me if I'm wrong, but states oversee SNAP benefits, right? Individually.
Yeah, it's effectively a block grant from the feds with a good amount of strings attached on what you can and can't do.
Okay.
Like you have to apply for waivers to not have it, to exclude sugary drinks and in candy, you have to apply for a waiver
Right.
from the feds.
Yeah.
But
It is
largely,
it's a federal thing, but the states, kind of like Medicare and Medicaid, right? It's a
right.
federal grant, but the states, there are differences between the states because the states have some type of control over how it's done, right?
Yeah, right.
What's the
Yeah,
answer here, man? I mean, the government is shut down, the federal government shut down, and I think that I understand the people that are on the dole and the people that work actually in federal government are starting to feel a little something, a little squeeze, but
hmm
the average person, the middle class, the working class, I don't think they're feeling anything when it comes to this squeeze, except maybe a fear of what happens when 14% of the population is who has become dependent on the government for their own food, just
yeah.
worrying about what they might do.
There's talk online I've seen about having some sort of organized theft day on November 3rd. Yeah, I think largely in the big Democrat-run cities, things like that. So, I mean, certainly there is a danger in that. Historically, when you know, I've seen some people call this the grain dole, kind of a reference to old Roman Empire days
The
where they
grain
had
though, yeah,
free or subsidized grain.
yeah,
Yeah, and the grain dole became a political hot potato because it was a way to manipulate, in that situation, the urban masses of Rome, which is primarily who voted in elections.
and the suburban,
It,
yeah, absolutely,
yeah, yeah,
and the soldiers in that at that point were, yeah, but yeah,
right.
yeah,
And
yeah,
that, yes. So it became, in that context, a struggle politically between who could control the mob and who could control the soldiers.
yeah.
Uh, I don't want that to be where we go as a society. That's not a good place to be. Um, but I think there is a danger there. Um,
Yeah, this is the situation
the
we are in. The reality on the ground is this high percentage of individuals depend on the government.
mhm,
We saw that go from I think it was 7 million in or 17 million maybe in 2000 to 44 million now. It went from 6% of the population, which was already too high, and there were politicians back then talking about how we need to stop this and this needs to be a ladder, not a lifestyle.
right.
But here we are now, and after COVID, it went up exorbitantly because of all the extra COVID funds. And remember, let me
Mhm.
know when you get in the parking lot.
I just pulled up in the parking
Oh,
lot.
look at that, man! But uh, let's finish this thought, and then we'll go to break, and I'll bring you in. But this idea that we can it's very scary. I think that it's a plan. I think there's a plan here, something bigger. When
Mhm.
the Democrats in Congress or in the Senate especially, we need 5 of them. None of them will back down, and that
Right.
shows me that they put party over country, party over the people, party over their constituents. They will not back down in order to allow these 14% of people that they claim they care about to be fed. Now, there are two sides to that. On one side, I don't want the government feeding such a high percentage of people because that means that they have
Right.
absolute control over those people. Give them 3 days and they'll do anything you want for food. You know what I'm saying? But at the same on the other hand, they have done this already. We have to responsibly bring that number down. And we need to, in my view, reopen the government so that this doesn't become like to me it would make the George Floyd riot season look like a playground day at the park. It would be
Yeah.
these when people are hungry, things get real bad real quick, and I feel like, and tell me if quickly tell me if you think I'm kind of overthinking this, but I feel like that's almost the goal to cause this type of chaos.
Yeah. If you go read Zelensky's rules for radicals, this is one of those rules that he advocates for is chaos, societal chaos, and that's what the Leninists did,
Mm,
the Bolsheviks did in the early 1900s in
yeah.
Russia. That's what the Chavistas did in Venezuela to take over. That is a strategy of the left.
Mao, Pol
And the
Pot.
way we combat that, and sometimes, Pol Pot, you name it. The way we combat it on the right, one is sometimes with the force of government, to maintain order. But more than that, we use what Jesus taught, which is Christian charity.
Yes.
I mean, that is what's deflected and defeated the left so often for the last several hundred years.
Help your neighbor.
In Western society is helping your neighbor. It's communities helping, not government.
Yeah.
And that's what we got to get back to, is the concept explicitly of community helping, not government.
That's very interesting you say that, because I'm going to spend the next, probably 3 or 4 shows, or until this government shutdown ends, I'm going to try and get the places out there where churches are actually going on and helping. Churches and community organizations are actually going and helping people feed themselves. Because, that sense of community, charity without community is nothing but being on the dole, and that's what government does. All right, we're gonna go ahead and go to break, bro, and I'll bring you in, guys. We're talking with Jordan Pace, the chairman of the South Carolina Freedom Caucus and state representative. We were just talking. Remember, anything you miss here, you can go back and watch after the show is ended. This is Palmetto Talk Live. Later on today, we're gonna have we're gonna bring Jordan into the studio. We're gonna talk about a few things, and then at about 8:30, 8:33, somewhere in there, we're going to bring Gil Gatch, state representative out of Dorchester. We're going to bring him on the line, and we're going to have some pretty hard discussion, but an important one. So we'll see you guys back in just about 2 minutes, and we'll see you then.
Tired of shirts that say nothing? At ShopTruthTees.com, we say everything with satire, sarcasm, and bold pro-freedom designs that get people talking. And the best part? Every tee, ladies' V-neck, and hoodie are 100% made in the USA. Premium fabric, very comfortable, and unapologetically American. ShopTruthTees.com is a family-owned pro-America business focused on wearable truth. Order now at ShopTruthTees.com. That's ShopTruthTees.com. Use promo code Corey Allen for 15% off.
For nearly 50 years, the Real Estate School of South Carolina has helped launch thousands of real estate careers. Founded by Charles Brown and carried forward by Chip Brown, our legacy continues, now with a fresh look and even more ways to learn. Choose in-person, virtual, or self-paced classes, all with top instructors and the most complete study package anywhere. Visit realestateschoolofsc.com and start your real estate journey today.
Looking for a realtor who gets it done and actually answers her phone? Meet Kristy Gore with Realty One Group Coastal. Kristy is a Tri-County top producer. She works hard, keeps you informed, and knows the Charleston Tri-County markets inside and out. From Dorchester to Berkeley and everywhere in between, she's helping you buy and sell residential homes with confidence. When other agents let calls go to voicemail, Kristy's picking up and already finding your next home. So don't wait. Call 843-998-8250 or go online to christyscoastalhomes.com, where local experience meets real results.
Live and local talk from the mind behind the Overton Report. It's time for Palmetto Talk Live with your host, Corey Allen. Now, your host, Corey Allen.
All right, here we are. We're back. And we have Jordan Pace in studio. How was traffic, bud?
It was what most people complain about, and that I've encountered at, going door to door and talking to constituents. There's a reason that people complain about the roads.
When it takes you 45 minutes to go from one door to the next door because of traffic, that can be an issue, can't it? It's like, how am I supposed to get all these people on board?
It further entrenches my position that we need to decentralize DOT and get the roads in the hands of the counties for the most part, not the state.
Yeah, I think that you look around the country, and that is the path that they've taken. And you go when I'm driving down 95, when I'm driving south on 95, right, going to visit my parents who retired down in Florida, I hit Georgia, and it's like, oh, it's beautiful. When I'm driving north on 95 and I hit North Carolina, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
But in South Carolina, I mean, I'm dodging potholes.
It's like driving over the moon in some places.
I'm dodging like random illegal immigrants who are driving big rigs. You know what I mean? Like, what am I doing here?
Yep.
So really, I think that's a simple thing. But why? Well, quickly, because that's not. I mean, God, there's always so much to talk about. What do you think? What do you think it'll legitimately take, right, to decentralize the DOT, to actually put it in the hands of counties? Because a lot of counties, a lot of municipalities, a lot of these lower, more localized political bodies, they say they don't want it.
No.
What do you?
Well,
Some of them do.
yeah,
Not all of them, but some of them
Berkeley
do.
County is. They've told me pretty consistently, like,
Yeah.
if you give us the money, we'll fix the roads because they can do it better, faster, and cheaper than DOT.
But how do you do that across the board when there are some? I know that like places like Berkeley County, I know that Charleston County, but some of the smaller counties that just can't handle or don't feel like they can handle it because they don't. Like, how do you do it across the board, though?
I think it was 2015. There was an audit done by DOT, and only 2 counties, according to DOT's own audit from 10 years ago, there's only 2 counties that couldn't maintain their roads better, faster, and cheaper than DOT could. It was like, I don't know, Kershaw and Marlboro. I mean, it was one of these teeny tiny counties with more.
Isn't that like best case scenario? Like we think they can do it this way because they don't have the money. You'd have to dole the money out to them correctly.
Basically, do it as a block grant. We already have this system called C funds or County Transportation Funds, CTC funds.
Okay.
Every county already gets a chunk of money every year in the budget for them to fix ostensibly county roads.
It's a tiny amount of roads that they have control over.
Right. So we'd have to figure out the formula a little bit. What it's going to take politically is a leader in the governor's office who will push for this. And I mean, that's why I endorse Ralph Norman. Ralph spent a little bit of time in the State House, been in Congress since then, and he knows the problem and he knows the solution is this, is you have to decentralize most of these small roads, these half-mile increments, and or so. There's 10,000 plus half-mile increments of roads across the state that DOT controls. You have to hand those as a starting point to the counties. Let the state focus on the highways, and then figure out along the way through that administration what can be handed off on those farm to market roads. They're not quite highways, but they're not little bitty increments of road here and there.
Sure.
Figure out with the counties who's better to take care of that. And I mean, that would take an engagement process, and what it would take is, like I said, leadership from the governor's office. Yeah,
it's interesting. I've had everybody that's running for governor on the show at one point or another. A couple of them have come on more than others. I've had Ralph on once. I'd really like to have him on again.
Make it happen.
Come in. I'd love to talk to him about DOT and how to correct that situation. I would love to talk to him a little bit deeper because generally the first time I have somebody on who's running for an office, it's basically tell us who you are, right? Tell us your why. But I would really like to get down to brass tacks with him on a couple of those items. Yeah. So I know I reached out to somebody working on his campaign about last week, but I haven't heard back. Yeah, I'd like to have him on again for sure.
Yeah, we'll make it happen.
But I think I think there's something there. I just think that a lot of the time, the people who are outside of politics, right? They see these things happening, and we'll keep this on DOT for the moment. And they say, well, if we just did this simple thing of giving control over these roads to the county, that would solve everything. But it's way more complex than that, right?
That's a first step.
That's like a first step.
Yeah, that's the easy part.
Because now you have how many counties? 46 counties, 48 counties, 46.
Mm-hmm.
So now you have 46 counties all working on roads. Now you have now it does.
They already are. To be clear, like every county already takes care of some roads.
Some roads, yes, but you're giving them. It's like if you have a lemonade stand and now you're talking about making them a lemonade conglomerate. You know what I mean? Like now they're Starbucks.
Well, kind of. So here's the fundamental idea is that the counties are more responsive to their citizens. Like
that's a fact.
You have a higher likelihood of knowing who your county councilman is than even your state house member or your state senator. Yeah. So you see these people more often. You can hold them accountable. Two, it creates a better marketplace for competition for the people who build the roads. Like the private companies, right now there's, I don't know, a handful of companies that do all the work for DOT, basically. Because the barriers of entry to get contracts with DOT is very, very high and very difficult. If you had 46 counties doing most of these small projects, it wouldn't be these handful of companies. You'd have startup companies, and
so that's where I've got to stop.
That's where the magic's at.
I think you're right. If everything is done correctly, yes, that is the way it works. What tends to, or what we've seen happen in some places is when you have it broken down from. There are like maybe 3 companies that do the state projects, and the state runs most of the roads. Yep. When you break that down, those 3 companies are going to have lobbyists helping write the laws. They are going. That is a fact. There's nothing illegal about it, and it's almost like you can't really necessarily fault those companies for trying to do what's best for themselves and their company and their workers. But that. If it's not done correctly, instead of opening up the market for these towns, what actually ends up happening is now you have a company that is one conglomeration or 2 conglomerations that now have whereas the SCDOT as a whole has more power to kind of negotiate costs and prices. Now you've got 46 broken up little entities kind of fighting for the same couple of companies. Now, if there's something in that law that would kind of break up the monopoly or require certain bidding forms, and if for example, if it's a road that's less than 5 miles, then a small business within the 5 surrounding counties, that's the only people that can bid on it, or something to that effect.
I don't think you can get that granular with it. I think the better way to do it is to largely deregulate the crazy regulations that are already there that have ensconced those handful of companies that already do it. For instance, in South Carolina, if a road project, if you're bidding on a project as a company, and the total cost is $10,000 or more, which is all of them.
Yeah.
As a company, you have to have the entire project value of the project plus almost double what it winds up being. It's almost double the cost of the project bonded.
Okay.
Like you have to put up the money as a company to do that project, and that limit is $10,000.
Yeah, that's inappropriate.
Versus like Tennessee, where it's $100,000. Alabama, it's $100,000. Texas, they don't even have that.
So you think that just simply doing something like that would bring that's interesting.
And that's just an example of
course,
it favors the big guy, the big company over the small company, the startup. Because if you're bidding on
how do you compete, man?
A $50,000 project, you got to have $150,000 bonded just to give it a shot.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, and not that there are $10,000 projects anymore, but that's the principle I'm talking about.
I get you.
That's how you deregulate it.
Man, it's see, and I guess that the only thing I was trying to illustrate is that it is more complex than so many people think about, and that's why I don't envy you, guys. We're gonna go ahead and hit the break, and then when we get back, we'll have Gil Gatch on. We're gonna talk a little bit about the VCSummer's deal and all of that stuff. So you ready? You down for that?
Sounds good to me.
All right, guys. Well, my name's Corey Allen. Of course, this is Palmetto Talk Live. We're talking with Gil Gatch, State Representative, Chairman of the South Carolina Freedom Caucus. Or I'm sorry, we're talking with Jordan Pace, Chairman of the South Carolina Freedom Caucus. And we'll have Gil Gatch on on the phone when we get back from this break. We'll talk to you in just a minute.
Tired of shirts that say nothing? At ShopTruthTees.com, we say everything with satire, sarcasm, and bold pro-freedom designs that get people talking. And the best part? Every tee, ladies' V-neck, and hoodie are 100% made in the USA. Premium fabric, very comfortable, and unapologetically American. ShopTruthTees.com is a family-owned pro-America business focused on wearable truth. Order now at ShopTruthTees.com. That's ShopTruthTees.com. Use promo code Corey Allen for 15% off.
For nearly 50 years, the Real Estate School of South Carolina has helped launch thousands of real estate careers. Founded by Charles Brown and carried forward by Chip Brown, our legacy continues, now with a fresh look and even more ways to learn. Choose in-person, virtual, or self-paced classes, all with top instructors and the most complete study package anywhere. Visit realestateschoolofsc.com and start your real estate journey today.
Looking for a realtor who gets it done and actually answers her phone? Meet Kristy Gore with Realty One Group Coastal. Kristy is a Tri-County top producer. She works hard, keeps you informed, and knows the Charleston Tri-County markets inside and out. From Dorchester to Berkeley and everywhere in between, she's helping you buy and sell residential homes with confidence. When other agents let calls go to voicemail, Kristy's picking up and already finding your next home. So don't wait. Call 843-998-8250 or go online to christyscoastalhomes.com, where local experience.
Live and local talk from the mind behind the Overton Report. It's time for Palmetto Talk Live with your host, Corey Allen. Now, your host, Corey Allen.
All right, guys, we're back at Palmetto Talk Live. My name's Corey Allen, of course, and we're joined in studio by Jordan Pace. And actually, on the line, we have Gil Gatch. He's I'm gonna put his photograph up here so everybody knows who we're talking to. What's up, Gil? How you doing, man?
Oh, I'm doing well. Just driving to Barnwell for
Barnwell.
So I'm driving down Bowman Branch Highway right now.
Nice. They have. It's good to know that they have service on that highway nowadays.
Well, we'll see.
We'll see.
How good that goes. Yeah.
So, I want to start this off with you because yesterday we had Joe White on, and he was talking about the VCSummer's that whole fiasco that ended up happening, and then Westinghouse going bankrupt, and now private equity firms have picked it up and are trying to kind of rebuild this nuclear facility to some extent. And you took issue with, and this is the whole point of the show, right? I want to bring elected officials on, have them speak about what they see as the issue, and I want to have others come on and put out that, their view on the subject. But you took issue with a number of things that Representative White said, and I want to give you the chance to kind of, fill people in and maybe fill in some of the gaps that you felt were left open there. So can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. And thanks for letting me come and clarify.
Of course.
Really, with all due respect to Mr. White, it's more than just filling in gaps. It's just correcting absolute incorrect information that I was very concerned that your listeners would be confused by just because it was false. I'm the chairman of public utilities. That means that I sit on the subcommittee where all of this type of legislation and all these issues go through my committee. So I kind of have a thumb on the pulse of all of this.
Okay.
And, as Jordan knows, and so does Mr. White, it was my responsibility to answer the questions and sort of shepherd the South Carolina Energy Security Act.
And so
let
me ask you something, Gil, real quick. With you being on that subcommittee, you kind of played a pretty like central role in the negotiations about restarting this and giving it to having a private equity firm kind of come in and help, I guess, stop this thing that so many people felt like they were taken advantage of, or with the failure of it, and you're trying to help bring it, make it not a complete and total loss, right? Like that's.
I wouldn't say that this deal that was struck didn't involve legislators. It was between Santee Cooper and Brookfield and those guys. But as it relates to how the process works and what took place and who was involved and who is involved, let me just take a couple of the issues kind of from the top.
Sure.
So Brookfield is the company, as you know, that won out, and there was this Fitz News article. I guess there was an aggrieved, I would call it maybe sour grapes type of article written by the person, or not by the person, but based on this company who didn't get the bid. Joe White and you kind of were talking about how, the fix was in, or that was the allegation that the fix was in, and that all the people who were involved in the fiasco that led to the downfall of VCSummers 2 and 3 are involved today. Well, that's absolutely incorrect. Brookfield was not involved at all. Westinghouse was involved. They're the ones who own and manufacture what is called an AP1000, which is the nuclear reactor. And they did go bankrupt, but they didn't just go bankrupt because, Santee Cooper and Westinghouse were involved in a deal. They went bankrupt because they were not only doing the AP1000s for VCSummer 2 and 3, but they were doing the AP1000s for Vogtle 3 and 4 in Georgia. They were creating 4 reactors all at the same time. They were in fixed price contracts, and that ended up being a fiasco because as the prices went up and the time, they had vastly underestimated how long it would take, how expensive it would be. And so they ended up being in this horrible situation where they didn't have any money. It was taking too much time, and the production of the nuclear reactors were way too difficult.
And when you say you're talking about Westinghouse.
Westinghouse, right. Correct. So the irony a little bit is that, yes, Brookfield did buy Westinghouse, but not 100% of Westinghouse, only 50% of Westinghouse. Yeah. Cameco bought the other 50% of Westinghouse. And the irony about how it seemed weird or conspiratorial that Brookfield and Westinghouse were involved in this new deal. You should know, and so should your listeners know, that the other company, the one that didn't win out, they were aligned with Cameco, who owns the other 50%. So both companies who were in the lead, if you will, to get this bid, both had 50% interest ownership in Westinghouse. So the idea that this was some kind of a conspiratorial arrangement was just not true. Something else that I really hope that your listeners know is that the CEO of the company that lost out had a track record of failed projects where they walked away from projects unfinished. And in Kentucky, there's a class action lawsuit related to a company that the CEO of this company that lost out, there's a class action lawsuit about it because he left bankers and other people holding a bag full of debt and just walked away. So based on that, and based on the fact that Brookfield had capital and the other company did not, because Brookfield's going to pay $2.7 billion to Santee Cooper.
Right.
That is talk about free market principles. I don't know how else, how else do you want to describe that? They had more money, they had more experience, they didn't have the track record. And the other thing that your listeners, I hope, know is that the day before your radio show, Trump announced an $80 billion partnership with both Cameco and Brookfield to engage in a nuclear renaissance to compete with China, not only in the AI race that we have going on, but also in national defense.
Yeah.
So if Trump,
I don't want us to get too deep in the weeds before we start unpack things like point by point.
I just think your listeners should know that if Trump has announced a partnership with Cameco and Brookfield, who both own the 50% interest of Westinghouse, for an $80 billion investment in nuclear facilities across the country to do what Trump calls a nuclear renaissance for America, to compete with China in the AI race and in the nuclear energy race.
Okay.
So I just think that was really missed, and amongst other things. But I'll let you.
Well, that's
I'll
that's
let you interrupt, but that's fine.
No, of course. I mean, and that's why I want to have all sides of any of these issues here. That's what this platform's for, and I appreciate you coming on. And Jordan, I want to kind of ask you what your thoughts on what he's saying. But before I do that, I just want to let everybody know that shoptruthtees.com. This is a sponsor of ours, and these people, this is they're based in Lexington, South Carolina. All of our sponsors are local to South Carolina. We've got, if you go to shoptruthtees.com, you can, it's American made. You can get 100% American made t-shirts, V-necks, hoodies. Christmas is coming up. These are the people to support. I'll put a link in the description. But yeah. So Jordan, I mean, these are things that Joe didn't really mention yesterday, right? The fact that that Cameco and the company that the other company had a 50% interest in Westinghouse's bankruptcy as well. I didn't know that. What do you have to say about this deal in general?
Sure, I can't speak for Joe and what Joe.
Of course not.
Know,
of course not.
The AP1000's effectively the only nuclear reactor that's being produced in the United States and frankly, or in China for that matter. Westinghouse, I think, built two AP1000s in China simultaneously as Vogtle and in VCSummer. So the reality is, Westinghouse is the only option. So, I mean, that's frankly why those were the two leading bidders in the Santa Cruz.
Was the only option because now they're bankrupt.
Well, kind of. They went bankrupt, and then they were bought out. Right.
Okay.
So really, their intellectual property was bought out by Brookfield. That AP1000. That's really why they were the main competitors. Is whoever owns the intellectual property to that. That's what they started building at VCSummer. So it makes sense. That's why they'd get it. I think the larger question, well, two things. The perception in the ground for most South Carolinians still, especially if you live in what used to be SCANA or Dominion's area, or in Santa Cooper directly, their service provider areas, people still are perceiving that they're paying for this loss.
Okay, why are they perceiving? Why is that?
I mean, they are paying higher rates for something that hasn't been produced. So, I mean, that's just the truth and the political reality of it. How we mitigate that's a separate question. I think this isn't necessarily a bad thing that a company came in and is going to help mitigate some of those costs that the company that they bought created. My bigger concern, and this is just kind of a philosophical thing, is of government providing utility services like this. Like it is this weird private-public partnership idea of what we need ultimately is a free market and more free market principles. And I think things like going behind the meter, whether it's Google or whoever these AI centers are,
right?
If they want to develop these small nuclear reactors and put them on site, if they want to get natural gas things on site, we should be able to let them do that, and figure out ways to, like I said, bring more marketplace principles into this utility sector rather than rely on government.
Well, there's a long tradition of utilities having with the government having some sort of control or massive regulation when it comes to utility centers. I think some of that, and Gil, I'd like to ask your opinion on this. I think that some of that stems from the fact that the government kind of needs electricity to continue flowing. They need the water, the pipes. People need water, but the government needs that to continue. They need the roads. So this idea that, like, it almost seems like there has to be some type of private-public partnership when it comes to certain utilities, because when because if you don't have massive regulations when it comes to that, things can get really shady really quickly. And when we're talking about things that society as a whole needs in order to function, does government have a role in that? Gil, what do you think about what Jordan was saying there?
Yeah, for sure. So first of all, Joe mentioned, Representative White mentioned about SMRs, how they're safer, how they're easier to make, they take less time to build. Do you know how many SMRs are currently being used in the world to produce energy? Do you want to take a guess?
I think it's just on Navy ships, right?
Yeah, the answer is 0. There are none. There are no examples of successful SMRs. There was one failed attempt in Colorado. They're trying to get one done in Tennessee, but the estimation of the actual price is an estimation because they've never successfully done an SMR, and the price is around $12 billion. It will cost, and that's only for one SMR, which stands for a small modular nuclear reactor. Mm-hmm. They are currently employed on naval ships, but about $12 billion for guess how much energy production? 350 megawatts. Okay. Almost the same amount of money is going to be invested by private companies like Brookfield into the VCSummer 2 and 3 site, and there will be 2,200 megawatts, virtually the same amount of money being used for 550% of extra energy. By the way, which people really need to hear this, is that the $2.7 billion that Brookfield is giving to Santee Cooper, the assets that Santee Cooper has isn't even worth that much money. So Joe was trying to say that like Brookfield was just going to take the assets and sell them on the market and never finish the VCSummer 2 and 3 site. That's ridiculous because what they're paying to Santee Cooper is they're not even getting anywhere near that much value. So Santee Cooper is going to take that $2.7 billion and pay almost 66 or more % of the debt that they have on the books from the VCSummer project. And when they pay off that debt, it's going to immediately reduce rates for 40% of citizens in South Carolina immediately.
Well, now let me ask you something, Gil.
The government's not even involved in that.
Well, hold on. Yeah, I understand, but you say that it will immediately lower the cost for. You said how many people?
About 40% of South Carolinians are serviced through Santee Cooper and
yes,
co-ops.
and you're saying that
40% will be affected in a great way because the debt that is currently being serviced by Santee Cooper goes towards the rates of those 40%.
So so it's your understanding, your position that that those 40% of people, or at least some large portion of them, if this continues, if this deal goes through and it's all worked out, and Santee Cooper is getting more power for less money, that they are going to lower the rates for the end consumer. You think that that's what they'll do, or do you think that needs to be legislated that they are required to do something like that? If they are getting more power, then they should be required to lower rates for people. Do you think that needs to happen? Well, it's the math, but we also know that. And I'm not trying to push back on you on this. It's just a situation where we a lot of the time, like we've seen many innovations in power and things like that, but I don't think anybody's ever actually seen their rates go lower. So do you think that's something?
I just think it's funny that you stand on one leg. With all due respect, like I hear all of this. Conservatives don't want governments to get involved. Conservatives don't want governments to over-legislate. And then you're saying, hey, will you make a law to require somebody to do something?
I'm not asking you if you'll make a law. I was only asking if you think that would be
Santee Cooper is the government
necessary in order to get the to make sure that people actually, the end consumer is actually because this is a with utilities. I mean, utilities are different than like. Buying
the way
snacks
that
and things like that.
The way that rates are calculated and the way that rates are working, it's math.
Okay.
And when there's less money servicing debt, it will put downward pressure on the rate.
Okay.
They're also going to get 25% free, in a sense, free. The consideration for the deal was obviously, the agreement with Brookfield. But after all of the private money, not public debt, not public money, not tax money.
Sure, yeah.
When the private money finishes VCSummer 2 and 3, 25% of that output is automatically Santee Cooper's. And when you have that much increase in your base load, it also puts downward pressure on the rate. So it's going to put all of these things have to be seen, and the public should know that a private company, not the government, has decided to bring private dollars into our state to finish these nuclear reactors. And as a direct result, it's going to benefit the ratepayer in a significant way. That was really missed yesterday. And that's one of the reasons I was concerned, is that it wasn't, I guess the idea wasn't captured that this is the best deal that we could hope for, is that private dollars are coming in to finish a project that had a major problem back in the day. And we can talk about that whenever you want.
Yeah, and also, Gil, I want you to know,
in a good way, the ratepayers.
I wasn't like coming at you and challenging you with that. I was really just asking for some clarification on that. Like, and you clarified it perfectly. I'm sorry if that came off combative. That wasn't the intent there.
No. I was just trying to make sure that the information was clear.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was what I was doing too. I think Jordan has something to say here, and we'll.
I think it is
can go back and forth here.
It is a good thing that direct government money isn't going to finish this project. I don't think that's a negative. I just want to, for clarity's sake, I think it's important to put out there that all of these things could have a downward pressure on rates not going up. I think that's probably the more clear way to say this, rather than giving what I would say really a false expectation that rates would go down. Rates aren't going down. The demand's going up. We're way behind on production, on baseload production. It could have a positive effect on rates not going up further than they already are. And on the immediate side of things, I mean, the Central Power, which is where Santee Cooper feeds into Central Power, which distributes out by the co-ops. So if you're Berkeley Electric or Touchstone or whatever, those rates are basically fixed, on fixed contracts. So even if this comes in and does things right away, I wouldn't expect, if you're on one of these co-ops, for your rates to go down soon. And I think it's important to set those expectations so people don't get their hopes up. Really what we're hoping for is that rates don't go up faster than they would have if this deal didn't go through.
But Jordan, so I mean, it's kind of like what Gil is saying. I mean, this something needed to happen here. Mm-hmm. Like so much public money was sunk into this thing. Then this group files bankruptcy. Things are doled out. The crazy stuff happens. And now a private company is coming in and taking on some of the risk, which private companies should have done in the first place, but didn't. Right. And now they're taking on the risk. They have an opportunity now to, I think, as you put it, well, as Gil said, potentially bring the costs down for people. As you said, at least keep them the same, downward pressure, keeping those prices for the average person 40% of our entire state, like we're talking about. Right. At least downward pressure to keep those prices the same, which the way that inflation works is actually the prices going down. Mm-hmm. So let's be fair there.
They're saving money.
They're saving money,
however you want to look at it.
Sure. So I guess that, like, is there a big issue here with this happening? What do we need to make this look clean or be clean for the people? Like, is there anything that won't be complained about?
No, I mean there's always things to complain about. That's the nature of politics. But
valid.
I mean, I guess the bigger instead of having a complaint, just concern is. And this deal is kind of an example. I'm not criticizing this deal itself necessarily. Certainly, we need to be watchful and keep an eye on it. The larger private equity firms, the Blackstones, the BlackRocks, the Vanguards, Carlyle Groups, the Brookfields, like all of these entities are left-aligned entities. These big money groups. And
Okay.
there's not a
When you say left aligned, do you mean culturally? Do you mean
culture.
monetarily?
Go look at their websites
financially?
and their positions on things like DEI and like all the things that they push down through their assets under management. And this is an intentional thing that they like. The whole reason ESG scores were a thing.
Sure.
It wasn't a government mandate. It was from
No, I get you.
from
I
these
understand what you're
entities. There's not, as of yet, a conservative alternative to these entities. And this isn't, again, this is just kind of using this deal as an example. I would have preferred, if I could wave a magic wand, if there were a conservative entity, and I would love to work with some wealthy conservative people to make this happen, to give a alternative to the Brookfields, to the BlackRocks, as an option for deals like this in the future, or when it comes to providing, the Carlyle Group owns most of the airport management softwares and maintenance companies, by subsidiaries. So effectively, tax dollars, not in this case. In this case, we might be getting more than we're getting, but in other cases like this, with these left-leaning
But we have to work in the world that we're given, right?
I agree.
So-
I'm just saying, rich people who may be listening to this, who have a conservative bend, we need to talk, and we need to organize and be intentional like the left does, because we haven't been doing that for the last 50 years.
So, Gil.
Well, Corey, if I could just say,
Yeah, I wanted you to ask you your final thoughts on this situation. Say whatever you got to say on this, because I think that I appreciate the clarification that you're giving us on some of the things that were said yesterday, and that's really the whole point of the show, man, is to get clarification. So talk to me.
The thing, and no offense, to Mr. Pace, but there are no magic wands. We are people who have been hired by our constituents to try to make the best possible life for them for this state. And if Brookfield is a left-leaning organization that is bad because of their DEI and so forth, then somebody needs to call the Trump administration and ask them why they just signed an $80 billion deal with them to do a nuclear renaissance in the nuclear facilities across the United States.
Because they own the AP1000. That's why. They have the only nuclear reactor to buy. And that's kind of my point is we need, as conservatives, as a movement, to provide alternatives. And so not critical of this deal itself. I'm being critical of, as a conservative movement, we need to be better and more intentional outside of the political realm, in the business world, to have a better influence on the political realm. That's all I'm saying.
You're speaking to a larger political point, while Gil, you're talking about this specific issue, which is...
I like philosophy and I like theory, but right now we're trying to get something done. And that's the part of governing that's difficult, is sometimes when it comes to governing, wishes and fishes and all of that mess isn't what you got in hand. What you got in hand is what we're going to do to better the lives of South Carolinians. For the SNAP benefit situation that I heard you guys talking about, that 1 out of 8 kids receive SNAP benefits. 1 out of 8
benefits from it.
I mean, if I could wave a magic wand, there would be no fatherless homes. There'd be nuclear families who are devout in their communities and their churches. But that's not what we have. We have another situation, a world with fallen creatures and fallen individuals who are desperate for help. And I don't think that, for example, Walmart is in the bag with the SNAP benefit situation, trying to triple, quadruple dip on SNAP benefits. I think that we got to figure out how we can help people, but we don't have magic wands to do it.
Well, Gil,
So
I think that actually it's been proven that Walmart specifically, and I don't mean to call them out, other companies as well, they have specifically lobbied to increase SNAP benefits federally for a long time, because they were busted doing it, they were caught doing it, specifically because it allows them to pay their part-time employees less, because they can have them be dependent on SNAP benefits. That is something that they lobbied for.
They get a tax credit.
But we can't look a single parent in the eye and say, you know what, we have this conservative movement that we really are passionate about, and we're taking your food away because it's really important to our philosophy and our theory as conservatives, and you're going to starve because our theory and our philosophy is so important to us. That's not helping people day to day, right? So we just have to be careful.
That's a straw man.
I would just say the last thing I would say is when we have theories and we have philosophies, I don't think that that's bad, but we also have to remember everyday people who are struggling to make ends meet, and we can't sacrifice them on the altar of a theory or a philosophy. We have to help people move forward every single day with what we have at our disposal right now. And I just want to be careful that we don't get so high horse on our theory and our conservative ideals that we lose actual human beings who are struggling and who are suffering in the process.
Well,
that's my heart.
That's an interesting straw man. That's a very interesting straw man that you've created, because that's not at all what we were saying. That's not what I'm saying. We don't have to choose between conservative philosophy and helping people. In fact, by holding a gun to the heads of everybody who we're extracting $2,200 a year per family in taxes from in order for politicians to say we're helping people, that is a leftist worldview. What the conservative worldview is, the government shouldn't be the one extracting money from working people to give it to people who aren't. Even if it's a good charity case and makes you feel better, the way to do that actually helps people is through actual charity. And that was the system this country was built on, and what made it great.
But you can't force people to be charitable.
Correct.
You can't force nonprofits and churches to be charitable.
You know what? You don't have to. That's why they exist. They were doing it already. They were already feeding people, and they still do it anyway. The point is, when the government moves into that, when they forcibly extract through taxes, and they force people to, quote, be charitable and help others, it doesn't actually help. It hurts. It inflates the prices of goods. And that's a real practical thing.
I would say that again, with all due respect, that while the theory on its merits may be correct, it isn't the reality that we live. So you can talk about theory, and it's a cool idea, and I may not disagree with you on the principles of conservatism, but from the standpoint of how do we actually help it today, what is the option other than to say, sorry guys, you can't get your SNAP benefits because at some point somebody's going to have to be hungry in order to change this system?
Well, Gil,
so are you going to who are you going to ask to be hungry first in order to get the theory to work? To step by step get down the road.
The average.
Gil, hold on, Jordan. Like I understand what you're saying, Gil. But I think that the larger point here, and the thing that actually, well, first things first, there are 5 Democrats in Senate right now. All we need is 5, and none of this would even be an issue at all. However, when we take the past 25 years, 6% of Americans being on SNAP benefits at some point in time in 2000 to 2025, where we have now 14, about 12 to 15% of people, Americans, on SNAP benefits. That's not because America is doing 2.5 times worse than it was in 2000. It's not. There's an increase in the amount of people on SNAP benefits, and that's not because more people are doing worse than they were in 1945. There was more poverty in America in 1945 than there is today, but there are
more people.
There are more people, but I'm talking as a percentage. As a percentage, there are less people in poverty in America today than there were then, but the requirements continue being loosened, and that once you get a population that the government can control through food, 14% of the population that the government is the one providing them their food, that's a larger cultural and yes, it might there might be some political philosophy there, but that's a cultural issue that has to be figured out from the root cause.
I hear you what you're saying, but that's big
it?
picture, right? My specific question is again, without the wand, without the theory, without the big picture, who do you say first? Which group of people do you say, we're going to stop this, we're changing it? Who do you want to go to and say, we're going to take your food away? Like, who is that first group of people?
Why does it have to be though?
I have an answer to that.
Well, what are the options?
I have an answer to that.
Somebody give me an option.
The average woman in the United States weighs 146 pounds. Statistically, this is objective fact. The average woman who's on SNAP benefits weighs 221 pounds as of about a year and a half ago. So, when the question is who's going hungry, that is not the right question. If there is actual danger of going hungry, we have food banks, we have churches, we have community and societal levels to do that.
So we're going to go to the people
no,
who
hold
weigh
on.
200 pounds,
No,
the
that's
girls
not-
who weigh
that's
over
not-
200 pounds, and tell them that they
That's
can't
not what
eat?
I'm
Is that what
saying.
we're going to do?
That is not what I advocated for. What I'm saying is hunger is not the issue in the United States. The number one health issue in the United States is not hunger when it comes to poverty. It's obesity. That is the number one health issue with people in poverty in the United States.
Yeah, but Jordan, we're specifically talking about SNAP benefits, and I think that's kind of getting into some weeds on a different issue.
I still haven't gotten an
Some
answer yet.
medical
It
issue.
sounds like the people who
I
are
don't-
heavy and obese are the ones that we're going to tell first, sorry, you can't have your SNAP benefits because you weigh over 200 pounds.
No, I don't
Nobody's
think.
actually answered my question.
I don't think. Well, here's my answer to it, and of course we're all three completely different individuals, and we're all talking about this from our own minds. My situation here is it should be a ladder and not a lifestyle, and it has become a lifestyle for many people, and saying that somebody who just refuses to get off the dole should continue being on it. I don't think that is legitimate, because there's nobody in America who will starve for lack of food. There are food banks. Sometimes you have to put in work. You can't sit in your home, right, and just live off of the government. And it doesn't make you a bad guy to say you shouldn't live off of the government for the rest of your life. Like, I don't think that's like. When we're talking about SNAP benefits, should they exist for some people? Absolutely. Mm-hmm. People who have cancer, who have massive medical bills, people who cannot work and have children that they cannot take care of, somebody who's a widower with children, somebody who has been laid off and is it's taken them 6 or 7, 8 months to find a new job to actually care for their family. That's fine. Using it as a lifestyle, which does happen and is the actual cause of it being so overinflated. Those aren't people who are on the verge of starving. Those aren't people who would starve if not for SNAP. Those are people who have become comfortable living on the dole. And when you have a certain percentage of people who end up living on the dole of the government, 14% is getting real close to that level of things completely collapsing. That's the question. Nobody has to starve, because nobody will starve. Nobody was starving in 2000 when it was 6%. Nobody will starve in 2025 when it's 14%.
What you're saying is, so if I'll change the word starve, it sounds like, even though you're not answering my question directly,
I want to.
that the people will do a body mass index test.
No.
We'll find out if they have cancer. We'll find out if they have all the things that you said would allow them to keep their benefits. And so long as they're not sick and they have a body mass index of however many percentage body fat, or they're over a certain
I didn't
weight,
say anything about
them.
BMI, so that wasn't me.
But what you're saying is that somebody, whether you want to call it starving or not, there's a group of people who have been unidentified directly, but indirectly they have been, who will be forced to not have food one way or the other.
Why would they be forced to not have food? Can't they go? People who are able to go and work, people who are able and willing to go and feed themselves, like, the government isn't daddy.
Who's going to pick those people? Who's going to pick those people?
What do you mean?
That's my question.
Let's put it back to 1998 requirements. Let's do that.
Or let's set it to the only thing you can get with SNAP benefits are whole foods, rice, beans, vegetables, fresh meats, things like that, and you can't get. No one should be entitled to a Snickers bar or a Red Bull on the taxpayer dole. I think that's the larger issue, and that's something the government master agreed with. He put that waiver in. That's something the big beautiful bill tried to address that to some degree on the federal level. And nobody wants people to starve, but the system has unquestionably been abused and exaggerated to the benefit of lazy people and large corporations. Those are who's directly benefiting at the cost of people who actually, you could argue, need it, because they're having to get further back in line to get it. And the money that should be spent on the foster children is being schlepped over to the guys who play video games all day and just don't want to go to work.
Can we agree, though, Gil, at the end of the day?
That's a pretty.
It could be, but can we at least at the end of the day,
it's a
Gil?
gross exaggeration.
Gil, I understand, and you know, this is it's a very good conversation. But I think that at least the three of us can agree that that at least some of the exorbitant rates of EBT and SNAP that have exploded since COVID. Not only just since the year 2000, but since COVID hit. There's some waste there. Can we agree at least on that? There's some people who take advantage of this system, and it's not a small percentage. Even if it's 2-3 percentage points,
Yeah,
that's
are
a
you saying
huge number.
Are you saying is the
And it
is
should
the
be
issue
looked at.
very nuanced? Yes, I agree with you that the issue is very nuanced,
Yeah.
and it's not that simple. But I just don't feel that philosophy and theory overshadow a child who gets food through this particular funding mechanism. And I think that we just have to be, when we're leaning, when our hearts are leaning one way or the other, we have to be careful not to sacrifice people and children at the altar of trying to be altruistic. And I think it's easy to be altruistic in a lot of issues that we stand up for, and we forget what people who are in pain, maybe they aren't the ones who are 200 pounds like Jordan said, but they're the ones who are truly working and trying, and they have multiple kids and they don't have another partner or a spouse in the home. I'm just really sensitive to want to make sure my heart leans that way in protecting them from any more pain and suffering. And I just think that we got to remind ourselves of that.
I get that, and that's why those things that you mentioned were exact examples that I was talking when I was talking about who should be getting those benefits, the people who actually need them, as opposed to the video game players and things like that. And yes, it is nuanced, and but I think that. Nobody's starving in America. Nobody's going to starve in America. And I think it's also very easy to be altruistic with other people's money.
I know a lot of people. I have clients who are I have some clients, man, who are starving. I mean, I have a lot of people that I know personally who are my clients for one reason or the other, and they're in desperate part of their lives, you know. And I just don't see the United States that way. I think there are people who are starving and who are struggling, and I just don't think that there are no starving people in America. I think that there are many who are starving who, you know, don't have the luxury of the video game lifestyle, and we just have to be sensitive to those folks, man.
Those are the ones that should get SNAP instead of the people who don't need it, who get it anyway, and are
Helping Hands in Goose Creek. Just as an example, anybody can walk in and get a bag of food that no questions asked every day, one per person.
There are other places, and of course, you
got to have a car to get there.
No, you don't.
You got to have
They deliver.
They'll deliver it if you get word to them. If you walk to your local church, knock on their door, they can connect you with them. Like there is an abundance. There's an abundance of food available if people want to go get it. And if people are hungry, they'll go get it, or they'll go ask someone who can go get it, or they'll go to their attorney who can connect them with a way to get that food to them.
Some people don't have cell phones. They don't have bikes. They don't have internet. They don't have a house. They live in a tent behind, you know, the auto zone. I mean, there are.
And the government, how does the government help them?
Go get your food, guys.
Get your food. Then how do they go get SNAP benefits if they don't have a phone, if they don't have internet to sign up, if they don't have a way to get to the DSS office to sign up for it? How do they do all that then?
I'm saying that there are lots of people who are in all types of very difficult.
I agree, they are.
Life situation, you know, and it's not just as easy as saying, "Hey, go get your food. Good luck."
No, it's definitely not as easy as that. You're absolutely right. You know what I really love about this conversation though is that it's like here we are, three people, and we're all talking about the ways that we think are the best to help others, and I think that no matter what disagreements we have on the how-tos, we're still trying to figure out, you know, what might be the best way to help others and build and lift them up. And I wish we had more time, but we're already 20 minutes over. Gil,
I'll do it again.
I love it, man. I appreciate you coming on so much And I think this has been a really productive and great conversation. And I appreciate especially you filling us in the gaps from yesterday's conversation with the VCSummers issue. I think that's I appreciate you coming on and kind of filling in those gaps for us. Okay, bud?
Absolutely. Thank you, Jordan, and thank you, Corey. We'll see each other soon.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
All right, guys. That was Gil Gatch and Jordan. I really do have to. I mean, I could do this all day, but I know I shouldn't. Thank you for coming on today.
Happy to come on anytime.
Absolutely.
I love talking about this stuff.
Keep that traffic in mind.
Yeah.
It's if it tells you this is something I think a lot of people don't get. Like you look at your map when you're at home and you're like, okay, Google Maps tells me it's a 25-30 minute drive. Mm-hmm. But by the time you get in your car and you're driving, now suddenly you're 20 minutes down the road and it still says, oh, it's a 30-minute drive. And it's like, wait a second. That traffic, man, it does not account for that. Hey, I think today was a very informative, very productive show. I would love to do things like this way more often because my goal is just to have people on and let's hash it out, man. You guys are elected officials. The constituents have decided that you're their representatives, and we all have different views and different ideas, and maybe we can come to some kind of agreement or at least clarification, if not agreement, right? And I think that happened a couple times today. What do you think?
Yeah. Discussion is that's what Charlie Kirk said. We get civil discussions, how we solve differences, and if we don't, then it gets worse.
Yeah, so. Absolutely. Well, we'll do it. We'll do it again soon with you and others. And hey, my name's Corey Allen. This has been Palmetto Talk Live, and we will see you guys. We'll see you tomorrow with maybe something as crazy as today. Who knows?